Hey, so what you're watching now is actually the first part of a three-part series masterclass all about actually growing and scaling an agency to 7 figures. And I'm going to walk you through the entire process. We're going to start with sales, which is the end, and that's going to deliver the biggest punch and the biggest value for the most people. And we're going to move from sales in the next part into lead generation, and then from lead generation into agency success fundamentals, which is the final part which will close this series. So today we're going to talk about agency sales. We're going to start with an overview of the entire process right here, and we're going to move from the process overview to actually breaking down all of its component pieces. So let's start with the process, because this is the part that most agencies don't have in place, right? And because they don't have this in place, they struggle in actually converting leads and getting new business for themselves. So what do we have here? So basically we're at the stage where we have a client. I'm just going to draw him a quick stick figure here. We have a client. They've just booked a call with us, and we're looking to actually get them to start working with us. And the question is, what sort of process are we going to take them from that initial call to actually getting them here where we've basically onboarded them and they've signed up, they're ready to work with us, they've paid, they've done all of that. So first, the big part that most people miss is that they jump straight from the book sales call. Nothing actually happens in the meantime. Maybe there's a reminder or something, but they jump straight to the sales call. And usually many agency owners just put the whole effort on this one sales call, trying to close the deal within that sales call. And that's a mistake, right? And it's a mistake because you're asking this sales call right here to do too much effort for you. And the sales call is not able to do that amount of effort, right? That's why we want the majority of the effort actually to be done before the sales call. And that's the role of your marketing, right? So you want to get somebody on a sales call who is pretty much ready to go. You know, maybe they have a few more questions, maybe they have a bit of uncertainty, but for the most part, they know what they're getting into, they know what it's about, they know what results they can get from it, and they're pretty much, as I said, ready to go. And if you get that sort of person, your closing rates, right, are going to go through the roof. You're going to notice that you can do, 50% plus in terms of what you can close on your sales calls. While the truth is that most agency owners out there, they barely scratch the mark and they do around 10% or less in actual closed deals, right? So what we're going to do here is going to enable you to get to 50% and above. And the key part is basically this middle bit right here. This is the part that's going to make the biggest difference for you. And they're going to be a series of automations. So I mean, most of you use Calendly to actually get the book calls. So these are going to be a series of automations, emails that they're basically going to get before they come on this call. And these emails are going to deliver very powerful value that's going to help you sell. So first, you want to put together a Google Doc with info about your service. That's the first thing. So I'm briefly going to scan through one that we use for ourselves. It's basically this one. As you can see, there's a lot of info there. You put a document like that you can send to people, and make sure that once the call is booked, that sort of document gets sent to them, and they can read and learn all about the service so that they don't come in not knowing anything. So pretty much as soon as the call is booked, so this is pretty much immediate. Let me just put it here, immediate, and let me just make this smaller. There we go. So pretty much as soon as they book the call, immediately you want to trigger an email that's going to send them that Google document, and it's going to send them some additional social proof about you and your company. Some people, they have articles, for example, that some magazine published about them. Those are great. If you've appeared on a podcast, that's also great. Just put a link here. You can say, if you want to learn more about me, feel free to watch this interview I just did with XYZ, and just leave it there. And so this email automation triggered immediately after they book the call, delivers the Google document, which introduces the service and gives social proof, right? Then pretty much 24 hours before, right? So that's what this is. let me just do it properly, 24 hours before, you're going to send a second email, and you want to give them some information about your price range in this email. And the reason you do this, and I mean, you don't have to be specific with pricing, but for example, you can say, you know, our packages start, let's say, at $2,000 per month, and they can go up to $10,000 per month, as an example. Again, you don't have to be super specific, but you want to give them some indication, because the last thing you want to do is spend, you know, 60 minutes here on a call, right, with somebody who's not actually going to be a buyer, right? You don't want to do that, right? So if they're not a buyer, I'm going to put this in red. If they're not a buyer, right, and they get this email, they sort of see your price range, right? They can sort of leave and not purchase and not come on the sales call. They can cancel it. These emails from Calendly and other calendars, they're going to have cancellation links in there anyway. So it's much better that they cancel. They know a bit about your price range. If it's not for them, ask them to cancel, and just don't waste your time spending, you know, 60 minutes plus with them trying to sell somebody who just doesn't have the budget and for whom it would not make economical sense. Then the next thing you want to have in this email is case studies, right? And I'll show you a few of ours and basically how we do them on our website. But case studies are supremely important because they showcase the results that you can basically deliver for your clients, right? So let's have a look at some of ours. So here's an example of a case study. You can see the summary of the case study, the results obtained. This is pretty much the same structure that you should use. Give a bit of information about the client, a video testimonial if you have, explain what sort of challenges they were facing, what solution you've developed for them, and then talk about the results. And obviously, if you have a testimonial from the client, offer that one here as well, right? So this is pretty much how any sort of case study that you put together is going to look like. And what you want to do is that you want to send multiple of these case studies, pretty much your best ones, via email, right? And when somebody gets them via email right before the sales call, right, 24 hours before, they're already going to learn that you've delivered results for people like them, and they're going to learn about your processes applied in practice, and they're going to be able to be ready pretty much to trust you already when they hop on the sales call. And then the last thing is Trustpilot and Clutch. So obviously, if you have a Trustpilot or Clutch account, link it here, right? And then share the link to your Trustpilot, say that you rate it excellent or whatever, so that they know that you have some third-party credibility to your agency that you bring into play as well. And finally, there's the third email right here, which you should send at least, 2 hours before. And this one, it's just going to be a reminder, and once again, link to the Google Doc, and please ask them to read it, right? So that by the time they hop on the sales call, they already know all of that information. Now, on the sales call, you should have with you a very nicely made pitch deck and presentation that you can use to present whatever your service is and your company, right? If you need some help with that, one of my very good friends here, Tony from Presentation Artists, he does an amazing job when it comes to putting those pitch decks together. So feel free to give him a shout out. He's for sure going to be happy to help you and maybe even give you a discount because I've introduced you. We'll see about that. I haven't actually spoken with him about this, but maybe he would be happy to do that. So the reason you want to have the presentation deck is because with the presentation deck, you're going to be able to show people that you're credible as a company and you're very, very well prepared. And that's what you want to show them even before they start working with you. And finally, from the sales call, you're going to want to book an onboarding call. And the big mistake people make is that they take payment here in the sales call. You should take payment here in the onboarding call, right? And just sign the contract in the sales call. And we're going to talk about how to do that next when we move and discuss the actual process of running a sales call. So let's do just that. So how do you actually run your sales call now that you know the overall process? So first, you do an introduction and a sound check. So that doesn't have to be complex, pretty much. Hi, John. Happy to have you on the call today. Can you hear me fine? They say yes. And then you pretty much already move to the next part, right? To setting the agenda. where you pretty much say, okay, so John, the way the call is going to go is that I'm just going to ask you a few questions to learn if this is actually a good fit for your company or not. If it is, then I'm going to tell you a little bit about exactly how we work, and I'm going to help you make a decision if this is good for you to join now or not. And okay, and they're pretty much going to say okay. If they don't, then obviously you're going to talk again with them, explain it again to them, and they will accept it and they will move on. So after you've completed setting the agenda, you want to ask them about their motivation. So pretty much it's as simple as, what made you hop on the call? Why did you decide to book the call that we're on today? Any sort of question like that, and make sure they actually answer it. So this is important. Make sure you actually get an answer. So if they say something like, well, I just wanted to learn more, or some simplistic answer like that, make sure you don't let them go. Like, dig deep into the real reason. So if they say something like, oh, I just wanted to learn more, what I would do is I would ask a follow-up. So, well, why did you want to learn more? And get them to expand on that. Get them to expand to the point that you can uncover the real reasons. And maybe they're going to say, well, my business was struggling and I'm looking for a turnaround, or anything of that sort. Once you get to the real core issues that are motivating them to book the call, that's sort of when you check this stage and move on to the next one. And the next one is you have to explore their pain. So you ask questions about what sort of problems they're having in the business. So maybe their business is struggling. So I would ask, what do you mean? You mentioned that your business is struggling. What exactly is going on? Are you struggling to get new clients? Are your existing clients leaving? What are the issues you're dealing with? And get them to expand on this. At this stage, probably at the pain stage, right, you're going to spend at least 5 minutes digging through that stage, right? So this one is usually quicker. So this is 2 to 3 minutes, maybe. Setting the agenda is pretty much 1 minute, and the intro and sound check is the same. It's sort of 1 minute, but this one is going to be a bit longer because you want to dig in the pain and get them to actually feel it, right? Don't just explore the pain logically, right? So if they say that their business is struggling, clients are leaving, blah, 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 ask them, so, what does this actually mean for you, John? If your clients are leaving, if you're struggling to keep your clients, how does that make you feel? And maybe they're going to open up. Maybe they're going to say, well, I'm not really confident in the service that we deliver. I think that we have problems on that end. We're all over the place with our sales. We don't really know what we're doing there. And what you want to do during this time is you listen to them, you acknowledge what they say, and let them to experience and feel that pain. Don't rush to offer solutions. Don't be like, we have the perfect thing to solve that for you at this stage. Just don't do that. Just be sort of like a doctor who's diagnosing the patient and identifying their exact issues at this point, right? So that's sort of what your focus should be. And once you've spent around 5, maybe 10 minutes at the most, but usually 5 minutes on this section, move to the next one. And the next one, you have to start exploring their dream state. What does a solution actually look like for them with this? So, for example, you can say, well, you mentioned that you're hemorrhaging clients and you're losing clients. So if we could fix this, what would it actually look like for you? What would you like to experience? And they will tell you, they will say, well, I want to be able to hold clients for at least 5 months, right? I want to be able to charge at least $2,000 per month. I want them to be happy. I want them to bring me referrals, whatever it is, right? And you can ask them questions, obviously, to expand on that. And everything that you've covered that's a pain before, you want to uncover what's the dream state, what's basically the opposite of that pain that they're looking for by engaging with you, right? So ask them that and keep digging. So this should also be around 5 minutes that you dig in with them to discover what their dream state is actually like. By this stage, right, you're going to know enough about them to know if what you have, whatever service it is, it doesn't matter if you're selling Google ads, Facebook ads, anything else, doesn't matter. You're going to know enough to tell them if you can actually help them, right? So what you want to do is you want to summarize what they've said. Sort of like, okay, so based on our discussion so far, John, it seems like you're struggling with A, B, C, and it sounds like what you're trying to do is get to X, Y, Z, right? does that sound correct to you, right? And usually they're going to say, yes, that's exactly where I'm at. And that's sort of the answer you're looking for. If you don't get that answer, obviously try to rephrase and take on some of their feedback, summarize again based on their feedback, and get it right to the point they say that pretty much that's right. And obviously if they're not a good fit, right, you want to get them out at this stage. If they're not a good fit, let's put that, let me actually type it because it's going to be faster. So get them out if they're not a good fit, right? Because I mean, there's no point trying to sell to them if you can't actually help them. If they are a good fit, obviously you do the summary, they accept it, and then you move to the next stage, which is basically you're going to give them an overview of the process, exactly how you're going to help them, right? So once you get to this stage with a process overview, you pretty much want to explain your process in simple terms. Let's say that you're doing cold email for them. Just an example, you would say something. So what we're going to do is you're going to buy 5 domains, which is going to cost you around $50 per year. And you're just going to redirect those domains to us. We're going to manage them. We're going to set up 2 email accounts on each. And we're going to prepare sequences that speak to your ideal target audience, and we're going to reach out to them with messages to actually get them booked on your calendar to solve your sales problems. In addition, we're also going to work with you to actually improve your service and your offer so that you have an easier time actually selling and closing deals, and whatever else. Maybe there's a third thing, right? So give a short summary just like that of the process. Maybe this is going to take, again, 5 minutes here. And once you've done that, ask them if they have any questions about your process, or if everything is clear. And obviously answer any questions that they may have. If they ask about price, just tell them we'll get to that in just a moment. I'm just curious at the moment if you have any questions specifically about the process, right? And obviously if they don't and you finish this stage, you just move to the next one, which is where you're going to introduce the investment. We never call it price, we call it investment that they need to make to actually get the benefits that they're looking for, right? So you're going to tell them, so okay, so to work with us, it's going to cost you $10,000, right? That's the investment. And based on our discussion so far, you mentioned that one new client for you means around $10,000 in the first 3 months. And based on the process that we revealed, approximating, that we're going to send out, let's say, 10,000 emails per month, and we're going to get 1% of those 10,000 people we contact in a month to actually book a call with you. That's going to be, in this case, 100 calls per month. And if you convert even 10% of those, that's 10 new clients. That's $100,000 in revenue that you're going to bring every month, and you pay us $10,000, right? As an example. So the proof of concept for this is that you're going to have a 10-to-1 ROI that you're going to make on your investment. Does that make sense? And if they say yes, then you just want to do the final CDA. So the way this is actually going to work is that all we have to do today is, if this works for you, we say yes, we get the contract details from you, we send you the contract for signing, and we book an onboarding session to actually make the payment and get the process started. Is that okay with you, John? Right? And obviously if they say yes, then you can go to the next step. If not, then you handle objections, right? So if it's a no, right, you have to sort of handle objections. Let me put that here. Objections if no. But assuming there's no objections, then you're going to go straight to getting the details for the contract and booking the onboarding session. This is very important. You're not going to take payment on this session, and you're not going to ask them for money during the sales call. The sales call is not about money, and you have to separate the two issues. Most agencies, they struggle to close any business because they make it about money, and this is not about money, right? Like, you have to get that out of your mind. It's not actually about money, and it's just about getting them to see that this is good for them and they want to do it, right? And if you can get that, and you can get their contract information, the information that you need to send them the contract, and you can get them to book the onboarding session. The job is done at this point, right? We're going to worry about what happens with the payment next, right? When we actually talk about the onboarding session. So this is pretty much the sales call overview. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. All of these steps, like this one, should also be around 3 minutes. Let's say asking and doing the ROI proof and the investment, this should be 5 to 10 minutes at the most, right? And the contract details should be around another 5 minutes, right? So usually on one of these calls, as you can see, you have 10 minutes here, let's say another 10 minutes here, that's 20 minutes, and probably 30 minutes in all. So I advise people to book the call for around 45 minutes to 1 hour, because that should give you enough time to actually be able to go through everything that you want to go through with them, right? So I'll put it here, 45 min to 1 hour. That's what you should be doing. Okay, so it's quite straightforward. I mean, this is not a complicated process, but it gives you a process that you can use for yourself, and you can also train other people in your agency, which is going to make you infinitely more productive and capable of actually scaling. And what you can focus on, especially when you do the process overview, is the PowerPoint presentation that I spoke of right before. So this is where you have PowerPoint presentation, and where you share it with them to walk them through the process that they're going to go through, right? So having that ready-made is going to be very useful. As the owner, you can focus on that. If you have a salesperson, you can pretty much just give them the presentation deck, explain the process, which is this process, and then get them to actually deliver and explain your process through with the help of the PowerPoint presentation. So it's this simple, really. And it's the exact same process that we use ourselves. So from that, let's talk about the final part, which is the onboarding and what that's going to look like. So first, you want to take payment, right? We mentioned that we're going to leave the payment for this session. So that's literally the first thing you do. And if this doesn't go through, you're not going to move here, right? You're not going to move to the next step. If they can't make the payment, right, you're going to want to reschedule the onboarding for when they can actually make the payment, right? But obviously, ideally, they make the payment. You take the payment, you give them the link. You can say, John, I'm just going to send you a link at the start of this call so that you can make the payment and get that sorted. If you need any help with that, please let me know. We're going to send you an invoice right after, or however your process is like. If you send the invoice before, I mean, you can have the invoice prepared for at the beginning of the call, send them the invoice and ask them to make the payment. Doesn't really matter, but take the payment first. Then you want to spend some time actually explaining to them, what are the next steps that you're going to need to take. Most people have already explained by this point their process during the sales call. You want to go over it quickly once again so that they understand exactly what's going to happen next. A lot of people forget, so it's very good to reiterate that stuff, and it's professional from you. The other thing you want to have is you want to put together a roadmap. Here's what's going to take, what's going to happen, and here's the timeline. Here are exactly what results you can expect at each stage, and here's exactly what you need to do at each stage. So, for example, the roadmap can say today, and today you can say buy, purchase email account, set email accounts to so that you change their name servers so that we can manage them, and maybe any other login details or some such that you need. Get details needed from the client. And then you can have 2 weeks down the line, warm up is finished for email accounts, blah, 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 whatever else it is. And you sort of give a project timeline, exactly how it's going to look like. And you set expectations for the client, and you outline what they need to do. It's very important to do these 3 things so that they know that they are in safe hands and that you know what you're doing. You have a process. You're not just winging it, right? And you're actually going to get results for them on this. This is very important because if you don't set their expectations, they're going to come with some expectations already in their mind. And those expectations usually are not going to be realistic, and you're going to struggle to actually meet them, and you don't want that to happen. And this is exactly how you prevent that from happening. Finally, you want to collect what you need. So whatever you mentioned in the roadmap that you're going to need, collect them from the client now. Stuff like login details, existing assets if you need them to send you their logo, brand guidelines, anything of that sort, and any access that you may need if you need access to their Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever. And finally, you want to arrange for a quick win. So explain pretty much what the first deliverable is and when it will actually be delivered. So that the client knows that something is going to come up. And usually this should be at least 2 weeks. At most, 2 weeks from the start. And the reason you want it to be at most 2 weeks from the start is so that they get a quick win by working with you and they can feel that results are coming and progress is being made. If a client doesn't feel progress is being made, they will start to regret that they made their investment with you, right? And you don't want that to happen. So this is pretty much how you do your onboarding. And we went through all the other parts of the agency sales process. You now have a very, very clear idea. If you want, I can send you, if you comment sales down below, I will send you a PDF overview with a lot more details exactly about everything that we talked about in this masterclass, and you can actually review that and go through it on your own. So that's it for today. Thank you once again for attending, and it was my pleasure to actually help you with this. Start applying these things that you're learning now, because they're going to make a huge, huge difference in terms of your closing percentage for your agency.